So as the title says, I think the last episode of House of the Dragon was a little overwhelming because of the pace the show is moving. However, the quality of the scenes that make up the episode are still really good, especially in regards to the crazy plot beats, engrossing characters, acting, production value, and really everything. It's just how fast the story is being told and how much setup we are getting before the payoff. Before we get into that further, I want to start at the beginning of the episode and talk about some of the newcomers. Emma D'Arcy, who plays older Rhaenyra, is really being put to the test by having to do a very long take of childbirth. I think that's a stellar way to introduce us to the new actor, and immediately commands the respect of the viewer because of how impressive the scene was. Millie was a gem of an actor, but I think we're in good hands going forward as evidenced by this scene. Not only does Emma D'Arcy have to show us the pains of childbirth and all that agony, but she has to add a layer to that performance and show us how much of a nuisance Alicent is. That quick moment of dread as she clutches her baby shows us her moment of happiness was ruined and allows the audience to instantly sympathize with her. Then her decision to take the baby herself was a staggering power move that again makes us love Rhaenyra as a character. In an age where so many shows and movies bash feministic messages over your head, as if you're Hodor trying to understand She-Hulk, having a character make natural decisions that in turn makes them more brave, likable, and realistic feels refreshing and amazing. I don't want to be spoon-fed dumb messages and themes that you want to push as a writer, but instead be entranced by lovable characters that progress the story in a logical and exciting manner. And I even love the attention to detail within this scene for two different aspects. The audio of the baby coming out was so slimy and disgusting and made the scene very realistic. And honestly, I would play it for the memes, but I don't know if it would get me demonetized. And Rhaenyra's blood trail was also a nice touch. The scene after the childbirth is also another long oneer, and I love Miguel Sapochnik for doing this. Firstly, it really accentuates Rhaenyra's struggle in this moment because we are with her the entire way of her journey through the Red Keep. It also introduces us to Rhaenyra and Laenar's relationship and how much they dislike each other, but they still kind of tolerate one another. Another aspect that I adore in this scene is that Miguel is showing off the pure scale of the set that was made for the interior of the Red Keep. If anyone doesn't know, HBO essentially made most of the Red Keep from scratch, and you can walk from room to room seamlessly. This long take perfectly showcases it here, and it's not only to boast about how big the set piece is, but it also works as a riveting character moment. Then we have good old Sir Criston Cole show up again. I'm still kind of sad that we don't see any aftermath of episode 5, because I want them to clear up the confusion of if there was any consequences to killing Joffrey. I would assume there would be some questioning, and I know that Alicent probably wants to keep him on the Kingsguard, given that he's a good asset for her, but if Criston is corroborating a lie that Joffrey pulled a knife or something, and that is why he killed him, then wouldn't that further taint his honor that he cares so much about? I don't know. I still think the character is interesting and its general arc is going to create some cool conflict. It's just the execution of it felt rushed, confusing, and needed some time to breathe after the fact, instead of doing a 10-year time jump. But moving on to Alicent, she's really been marinating in her hatred for the last 10 years, and the competitive fires that Otto Hightower stoked in episode 5 are really coming to fruition here. I wish we got to see some of that buildup instead of jumping into the new version of the character that we were already engaged in. But for the new actress, I think Olivia Cooke so far is matching the quality of Emily Carey and is still really expressive in scenes that wouldn't seem that emotional at face value. Our good old pal Viserys is still kicking around, and sadly, he's lost his left arm. I think it would be really funny if he somehow made it to the end of the season, but that probably won't happen. His willful ignorance in this scene is on full display, and is even ironic when he says that the baby has Laenar's nose. I guess he's just entirely ignoring the fact that our kids have black hair, despite Laenor and Rhaenyra having silver hair. I mean, come on. Even Ned Stark put 2 and 2 together. And I also like how most people know about this situation and is a constant festering issue that is going to explode at any minute. This essentially again stems into the fact of pacing, because we just got introduced to Sir Harwin Strong and Rhaenyra's relationship with him, only for it to be ripped away. Like, imagine if we came to love Sir Harwin as being a wholesome dad and had to struggle with the conflict of having to contain his love for his children and keep that a secret. That seems like a great dynamic, but it's largely skipped over so we can quickly get through the story. The main point of there being build up is for the audience to form an emotional bond with characters. And in fewer scenes, it's hard to really forge that bond and care about them. So when they die, their deaths don't feel that impactful besides just moving along the story. Like, I feel like I would be a lot sadder for Sir Harwin's death if we had like more than 2 scenes of him interacting with his children and Rhaenyra, but sadly, we don't get to witness that. Another example within the episode is the death of Laena Velaryon. We get like 3 scenes with her and Daemon, and I was genuinely interested in Daemon actually settling down and kind of raising a family, and the conflicts associated with that. Especially since in the last episode, he killed his wife. So going from that to him suddenly being married and having kids feels jarring because we are leaving out the middle part of that development. Now again, the scenes here are still good and well made, and in particular, I love the scene where Laena asks Vhagar to kill her. It's really tragic and saddening to see the hesitation and confusion within the dragon trying to comprehend why her rider wants to kill herself. But emotionally in this scene, I wasn't that sad because we just got introduced to Laena and Daemon's relationship. If we had more time to grow an attachment to their relationship, then the scene would be significantly more depressing. That would be like Daenerys just marrying Khal Drogo and then within the same episode, he gets poisoned and dies. Now, that relationship is obviously more integral to the story of Game of Thrones, but you still need time for the audience to care about these characters. Same thing for Sir Harwin Strong. You can do that in a small amount of time, but the more build-up you have, the stronger the impact will be. Since I haven't read the books, I don't know what they are technically skipping over and if there was a content drought, and that was why they did a major time jump, but by doing this, you essentially have to reintroduce us to everyone again, and as the creators said, it's basically like a second pilot episode in 1 season.
In 6, we have the time jump and the changeover of actors, and it felt like a second pilot.
Instead, to me, it would make more sense to slow down and naturally progress the story and do what they did within the first 5 episodes, and occasionally flash forward like 1 to 3 years at a time if they really needed to. And from my understanding, it seems like HBO just wanted to do the Dance of the Dragons, but George R. R. Martin probably insisted on doing the 20 years beforehand to set everything up. So it comes across as them trying to cram that 20-ish years into the first season alone. To combat this, maybe they should have done that 20 years over the course of 2 seasons, and at worst they could have done 2 shortened seasons before the dance, or 1 longer season. Would it kill them to give us more than 10 episodes? Come on. Because currently the pace for me is borderlining on ludicrous speeds, and I find it ironic that some people are saying that the show is boring. Like, what do you mean? There are major revelations, twists, and deaths happening in almost every episode. You don't need that to make the show great, and Game of Thrones heavily relied on character-centric scenes. That was mostly composed of dialogue and had very little plot development. So at the end of the day, this is my opinion, and if you're fine with the pace, then that's a-okay, because to me, the scenes are still really good, and they're not bad by any means. Since I'm kind of done going on about the pacing, let's talk about some more of the highlights within episode 6. I think the kids being showcased are really interesting, and I like the direction that Aegon is going. Seeing a completely spoiled Targaryen child that seemingly has no remorse will make for a very entertaining adult later on. I've seen some people compare him to Homelander from The Boys, and I really hope that's where he's going. At first I thought it was a little bit much for him to be jerking off out the window, but it quickly and efficiently sets up who he is as a character. Then it gives more of a meaning to the name King's Landing. It's not just Tommen's corpse falling onto the people, and instead some sticky rain. It was also nice to see the dragon pit, and I especially love the grizzled dragon keepers that was helping Rhaenyra's children. This guy's voice was immensely satisfying. Then another great scene was the courtyard combat training. There were so many layers here due to the amount of characters that were featured and the amount of perspectives being shown. We see Sir Criston's disdain towards Rhaenyra's children and the favoritism towards Alicent's children. Sir Harwin clearly getting upset as if he's a dad on the sideline of a sports match, getting mad at the coach for benching his kids. King Viserys just vibing and being happy, and most of the kids getting a quick moment to shine. Then the end of the scene ends perfectly and is a great setup for what happens later on. I love the inner turmoil going on within Lionel Strong, and how truly loyal he is to King Viserys but struggles to tell the truth of Sir Harwin. That scene where he tries to retire was so painful to watch because you know you can't say the hard truth. It made the scene even better that Alicent knew exactly what Lionel was talking about, but was just losing her mind in the background. At this point, I assume that Viserys knows, but he doesn't want to dredge up any conflict and just wants everyone to be happy. And this leads into the chaos that is Larys Strong. Now, this man is a flat-out love child of Littlefinger and Varys. I was not expecting this seemingly innocent character who was hanging out with the ladies eating snacks in episode 3 to be a psychotic murderer who kills his family. Again, I wish we had a little more build-up as to what he's been doing in King's Landing with Alicent and their relationship, but I think it was still executed well since it's supposed to come as a shock to the audience and Alicent. That's really setting up an interesting direction because Alicent is in the deep end now, and she does not want to piss off Larys. He's very intimidating despite him not physically looking so, and that's mostly just a big applause to his unsettling performance. I also like the small detail of his beetle being associable to his character and his evil servants. Makes them more visually recognizable and you instantly know their affiliation. Overall, I still really adore episode 6 despite the pacing being pretty fast. I think the show does do a good job to combat that feeling of a fast pace by having really long and intriguing dialogue scenes, so we aren't rapidly moving between scenes. If they were able to make a happy compromise with that and not skipping so much time, then I think the pace would be perfect. Thank you for watching, and I'm about to be hit by a hurricane, so hopefully I don't die or lose power for a long time and I can still make videos. But regardless, let me know in the comments what you thought about episode 6.